Hey everybody, my name is Karthik and I'm with UZ Marketing and I got here Matthew Tagnachi. Did I say your name right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Awesome. So I actually know you as Sunny and I've actually known you for a few years before you started a business. But basically, uh, you, Matthew, have started a pressure washing business, and from what I've seen from your posts and from the pictures of your business, the website, and the reviews you have, you're doing pretty well for yourself. So I think you'd be a very good person to kind of share your experience, what it was like starting a pressure washing business, and the course you took and tips that you may have for other pressure washing businesses. So if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, tell the audience your backstory and who you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Karthik. It's awesome to do this with you, like professionally outside of our personal relationships. But yeah, I appreciate the introduction. There's I guess, yeah, we've been pressure washing since July 2017. So we're close to 4 years in, and it's been pretty awesome. We do basically all exterior cleaning. So everything top to bottom that you might need on both a commercial or residential property. And there's a couple other things that we do on the side of that, like we do parking lot painting, and then we have a junk removal company. So there's a couple other things we do, but we try and stay strictly on just exterior cleaning. And we work in the Houston area, and we'll go up to 30 miles outside of the city, or outside of the center of the city. So about a 30-mile service radius generally. But then depending on the size of a project or scope of work, we might go further outside of that.
Okay, right on. So basically, when you started the business, how old were you when you started the business?
I was 19.
Cool. So you had a unique experience starting a business at a young age. Did you ever find that being an obstacle or some type of unique point about you being in business?
So yes and no. There's pros and cons to it. So the pros are that, generally speaking, a lot of people want to help you. Like the some of the more valuable things are, one of the most valuable things I think is mentorship. And so it's relatively easy to find a good mentor when you're very young, because everyone wants to help you, and sometimes you almost need to like filter it out because everyone wants to give you advice. But
Hmm.
um, that's a huge benefit to it, is that it's you can people aren't as threatened, or like people are more willing to go out of their way to kind of help you a little bit. So that's certainly a pro. And then another pro is that I didn't have like, I'm not married. I don't have children. Like I don't have, at the time, I didn't have any real assets or anything. And so there was nothing to really lose um, if things went south. So it's kind of like a lot lower risk, you could say. And then also you're young. I was young. So I could kind of dig myself out of any hole that I got myself in. So those are certainly the pros. I guess cons would be that it's a little bit harder to. The good thing is that I was over 18, but like probably the hardest things were, some people didn't take me serious.
Hmm.
Some customers, I think that I kind of looked a little immature to be taking on the scope of work they um, might have wanted us to do in very select circumstances. But it helps that a lot of the initial interaction is done over the phone. So that helps a lot. So that's one, I guess, like a way to overcome that. But then another con is that on our commercial auto insurance, it was extremely expensive. It
Hmm.
was like close to 1,200 a month, I think, for just two vehicles. And that was after having a completely clean driving record, I want to say. So um, it was just extremely high because of age. And then um, the other con was that kind of sticks out is I didn't have any credit history. So I pay a lot higher interest rates, and then and then sometimes I don't get approved for stuff, or like other opportunities that might be available to someone who's been on a W-2 for 20 years aren't extended to someone with no working history. So,
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So it's a unique situation for you, but there's some things that you touched on which a lot of business owners in general, and especially people in the pressure washing industry, can relate. That the credit is really important, and also vehicle insurance is really important. How did you start off with the equipment? Like, what equipment did you start with? If you have advice for somebody who's brand new to the pressure washing industry, what experience do you have of equipment on the equipment side?
okay. So we've bought a lot of equipment. Um, I heard a couple of different questions. So what we
Yeah.
started with, and then how I would go about developing more equipment and how we did that. Um, all right. So what we started with, I mean, I started the first few jobs I did, I rented a machine and then factored that into the cost of the job so I could just sell it, and then I wouldn't have any overhead. Um, and then later on, I bought a machine for like $300 from, I think, Northern Tool. And then after that, I basically financed a machine, and that was pretty silly because I think I just finished paying for it. Like it was $1,300, and it was at like 80% interest, like
Wow.
fixed rate. Yeah, it was
Wow.
like it came out to 2,200 bucks or something afterwards. It was ridiculous, and I couldn't pay it off early. So I
Yeah.
I think I didn't even have the machine, and I had like four other machines, and or a couple other machines way better than it, and I
Mm-hmm.
was still paying for that other one. So
Mm.
I would not. That's, I guess, leads me to my response to the next question. Um, so I guess the easy answer is it's just incremental. Um, my advice and what I've found useful, if I could go back and redo it all, is I would not finance any equipment. From what I've gathered, there's no need in my industry, and like pressure washing, there's no need to finance any equipment. I think that what I'll do is I'll kind of get ahead of myself, and I, like, in that situation, I thought like having the better equipment would take me to the next level, and it did, because it helped my confidence and stuff. But like it was just really unnecessary. Like the level of, I mean, the amount of equipment, the cost of the equipment we use is maybe 3,000, 5,000, maybe at most 10,000, and it's like um, you can build it organically without having to finance anything, and like your equipment depreciates very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes we'll rent stuff if we need to, obviously boom lifts, things like that. We'll rent that, but I mean, I have four truck notes that I'm paying for, that some, I mean, we don't use them all the time, so it's like trucks and like it's just a risky thing. And if I could go back, I would do everything cash, because I mean, you end up paying for the same thing three or four times over, and then um and if you don't have work coming in, you still have to pay the
Right.
note. Yeah, so I just wouldn't recommend financing equipment. I would, or really anything at all, besides like personal, like a house. But um yeah, that I did, and I pay for it, but and I understand it, and why I did it was that it is it helps you get to the next level quicker, but it's really just the perceived next level, because um anyone, I guess, I know I don't want to go on too long on this, but when I was younger, right, I thought like getting a car was a big deal. So I was like, people are silly. You can get a car. What's crazy about, like, this is awesome. If I need another vehicle, I can go get another vehicle. And it did help a lot with tax, like write-offs, but it's just it's just a silly game because it's better to do just cash everything. So,
Makes sense. That's a good insight. You got some really, really good insight, actually. We take a similar approach. We pay cash for all our machines. Our margins are not that great in what we do in manufacturing. So we can't be financing expensive equipment and paying for it for the long term. So we end up paying cash for almost all of our equipment is paid for. And what's more important to us in our experience is actually the process behind running the business and also the customers too. You got to have the customers.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I get the like burn the ships mentality, and that helps me a lot. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how to pay for it either way. But once you figure out how to pay for it, it later on, it's still taking away from your profit,
Mm-hmm.
and you end up paying way more. So
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
interestingly enough, if it isn't against any of your trade secrets and if it's not giving out too many personal information, what actions do you take year over year to influence your revenue? Like, what is your growth strategy?
Um. All right. So basically, our ideally what I try and do is just basically shoot very high and make and kind of work backwards. And so we've got like so our goal this year. I mean, hopefully, I think it's all relative. I mean, who cares if how private we are? But so my goal this year is for us to gross 1 million. That's like my that's what I want. So, um, and my plan is basically we have to work back.
Mm-hmm.
So, if and that's like it's 4,800 a day we need to make like 5 days a week. So I'm like, how do we work backwards? Like, how many jobs do we need to do in a day? What's our average job? How many jobs do we need to do to get $4,800? And then like that'll tell me how many people I need to have working with me. That'll tell me how much I need to spend on marketing or how much marketing I need to do because I mean, $4,800 worth of jobs isn't going to come out of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I need to market X amount to get that many calls, to get that many quotes, to get that many jobs. And so that's like how I've kind of done everything is just working backwards. And then the I mean, we've only been in business 3.5 years. So the first year, I had a kind of strategy like that. Um, but it was really just like I would take anything I could get. And like the goal was just to start making money because I was making $10 an hour. So anything was great. So,
Yeah.
but so then, and then the next year we did, or the first like full year in business, January to January. So it was actually like at the end of 18 months because I started in July or June. Um, the first year was 189 gross, and then um, that was awesome. And then I tried to double it, and then we like almost doubled it. I mean, we did 360 the next year, and then um, and then the goal was and then the goal after that, the third year was to double it again. And so I was shooting for like 620 because it was originally I thought we did 310, but then after like we it, when we finished the year out, we had actually done 360. But um, so I shot for 620, and then we had COVID, and like everything kind of went haywire, and the goal is just to like stay alive.
Mm.
So we ended up doing like 390 or some. I mean, I'm not sure the exact number, but it was I think right at 400. Um, or very close to it. And then, um, but I mean, so we did grow, but really we just kind of stayed alive. So
I'd consider
that's
that growing, especially during the trying times that every business had to face through in 2020. Man, it's like it's commendable. Not only did you stay afloat as a business, but you actually grew a little bit in revenue too. So you had the cash flow running, and that's very important to at least be able to bring in payments, pay others for vendors or supplies or employees and whatnot. So that is pretty commendable. And as far as what you said about having a goal and then working backwards, I highly believe that that's a very good practice. We do that ourselves here at this business. We set ourselves a target and then we work our way back, and it's like basically reverse engineering the solution, and you go through the steps in your head and with the team, and you kind of determine what process needs to be made. And in our experience, it's all about the process. Making printed material for us is not new. Like in your case, pressure washing is not new. It's been around for a long time, but like the process is so important, and like how you deal with customers and things like that. You also did touch a little bit on marketing. So can you explain a little bit about what your marketing efforts have been and how that has resulted in increased business?
Um, yeah, that's the only thing I'll be private about.
Okay.
But I can say, I guess, because obviously you're a marketing company, I can say the best advice I could give would be to reach out to Karthik and utilize his services as far as trying to grow and reach more customers. I guess I don't mean to be short, but that's like really. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to separate yourself, but what I've found is like you with marketing, I think you get out what you put in. And so if I like put a lot of effort into reaching customers, then usually this may sound silly, but I think the universe reciprocates it back. And I mean, maybe I'll try marketing one way and I'll get a call from a whole different avenue that I didn't even try. But it's basically like I think the universe rewards efforts for sure. And so yeah, I mean every there's we didn't do anything. We haven't done anything crazy like come up with some. I mean, we don't fly airplanes in the sky with our phone number, so it's all the same stuff that everyone knows as far as pressure washing goes. But yeah, it's kind of a little private.
No,
Yeah.
that's fair, totally fair. Like, don't want to give out any trade secrets. That's totally respectable. But I can say from experience, a lot of pressure washing companies, they love using yard signs, door hangers. Even word of mouth is probably one of the best techniques. So for anybody listening, like there's plenty of information on public information on marketing, and we've found from our experience doing business with a lot of pressure washing companies that yard signs, they really work, and door hangers, putting them out on the doors of the neighbors that you serve. Like you do a job, and all the six people around see, oh, that's a good job, so let me put a door hanger out there. So that type of stuff will definitely improve on the efforts, and I wholeheartedly agree. You get what you put into it. It's the case almost all the time. If you give genuine attention and effort into something, whether it's marketing or anything else, results will come. And at worst, you'll find out what doesn't work, so you can take that and not do it again and repeat it the next time. So there's plenty of things to gather from like trial and error too. When it comes to about your customers, can you tell a little bit about your target demographics and how you provide value to them?
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, they're the people with money. But yeah, I mean, basically, we want. I say that jokingly, but we want people that care about quality
Mm-hmm.
and aren't very concerned about the price as much. I mean, we try and stay like within a fair price, so that way we can do a really, really, really good job. But then them think, oh wow, this was less than I. We want them to get more than they paid for, essentially. So our target demographic is obviously people within our area, and then people that generally need um, more of our services rather than less. So people obviously that own a home and aren't just getting the house washed to appease the HOA or do something temporarily. So we want like people that will be with us throughout the year and that will stay there and that we can just continue talking to or reaching out to, and then do a lot of work for them. Um, but it's pretty simple. People with money and that have a property that gets dirty. how we try and give them value is a few different ways. So we try and basically go above and beyond, with basically just like being their best friend. Like, so I'm big on Mattress Mac, which I'm sure you probably are too. Everyone is.
Yeah.
So he's big on, like, and in his book, the Think Big, he talks about being the customer's best friend. And so, um, basically, like, everything you might do for your best friend. So you might offer something that isn't, that they don't even think that they want. Like, if you're on the way over to their house, you can get them Starbucks, and you check on them if you don't hear from them. Things like that. Like, you're basically being involved and looking for their best interest. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different things, and I see stuff all the time that I think, like, wow, we should start doing that,
Mm-hmm.
or man, I wish we did that. Like, um, I mean, there's a ton of it, but as far as like what I think people want is, they want convenience, they want reliability, like they want peace of mind that everything's going to get done perfect, that they don't have to walk around and check on it, they don't have to call us and ask, hey, where are you? Like, I thought your guys were supposed to be here. We send people can pay over a text message, like with a
Wow.
link. So we try and make payment easy. We send before and after pictures. So, and then we try and check back in with people every so often, so that they're not, like, obviously everyone procrastinates a little bit, but so they don't, we can make it easier for them to call us. Two, they don't lose our phone number. Three, they get the same person that they expect. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that we try and do, and it's really just what would the ideal customer want, and it's usually convenience, peace of mind, and quality work. And also, everyone loves a discount, so
Mm-hmm.
anything we can do to, um, lower the price and get more, which, I mean, if we're doing a job, we're getting money for it. So if we can lower the price and do work for them, we'd be happy to do something like that. So
That's awesome. Very good information right there. And I can honestly say we shamelessly have stolen lots of ideas from other businesses, like marketing ideas. They're just
yeah,
so good. Like I see something and I'm like, we got to implement that. And when it comes down to it, nothing's really been invented or reinvented. It's been there. It's reworked a little and made our own. Or in your case, like the Starbucks thing, it's such a small gesture that can go a long way. At the end of the day, the customers, man, they're the most important part of any business. Business does not run without the customers. So we have to find ways to make the value that they're receiving like higher and higher and higher. And essentially, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he had a mentality like to kind of raise the bar and set new standards for the business. So what are we doing now to set new standards that the next person isn't doing? So that's kind of a way that you can innovate, and we can innovate too as a business. So there's a situation. You did mention something about price, and I have seen countless times in the various communities that there is an issue with the price because some people are really lowballing the market, and it's changing the way that customers perceive the business because it's training them to get used to lowballed price, which hasn't been communicated properly. Like that lowball price is you get this much worth of service, whereas with a regular pressure washing company, you're actually getting this much worth of service for the price. So you're getting more than what you pay for. So how do you, as a business, manage those expectations from the customers who are so used to getting lowballed, and your experience with that?
yeah. So let me try and break it down, because there's a lot. I mean, I could go on for forever about it. But I guess so. All right. So first, how do we? The last question, it sounded like, was how do we handle objections on price, and then I think another one was how do we deal with other, um, people in our area competing with very low pricing, and then another part was, how do we, remain in business if people are doing really cheap work.
Sure.
Um, I'll try and answer as best as possible. Basically, it usually hasn't been an issue, because, like, when I mean, I'm a consumer too, so like I buy stuff, and you see the headphone, like I buy AirPods, right? And so I got the ones that are like $250, right? Which sounds ridiculous. But then you've got AirPods at the gas station that are $20. And so like some people want to buy the $20 ones. I mean, and they'd rather buy 10 of them and spend the same $200 that I paid once. So, and that's like, and I get that because that's how I was with when I bought equipment. Like, that's another thing I would add on to go back a little bit is just buy the best quality stuff you can. So, um, but but yeah, so there's how I see it is like there's three types of customers. There's people that are not my customer, right? Which is totally fine, but their like sole focus is to just get the cheapest thing possible, and they're okay with the headache of like chasing the contractor down and like doing 8 walkarounds and being like clean this, and like holding the money and like all that stuff. So they're very cheap. That all they want is the lowest price, which is fine. We're in America, so it's all right. But they're not our customer really. And then there's the middle of the ground, which is like they might object to it. They might just have some questions. Like they want to pay a fair price for fair work and get the best option that's available in their area. And then you've got like what I call, or what I've heard called lay down customers. So like, and I'm kind of a lay down customer. Like if someone tells me a price, I try and be good and just like take the price. So
Mm-hmm.
um, lay down customers are great. Like they see you, they're already sold on you. You don't have to sell them. Like they want you. You tell them the price, and it's good to go. Um, and then so in the middle, that's like where that's like where it comes down to like being a challenge. So um, in my experience, people understand that everyone paying for pressure washing works, right, generally, so they all understand it. So some people are just not gonna um, understand the value in it. But if I'm able to, one, like do a few things, so people probably aren't going to call me back and be like, why was your price higher? I got another price higher. So if I can be more competitive and I can send them the quote, and then I can call them the next day or text them the next day and be like, hey, what do you think? Like I can follow up with them. Then I can intercept them a little bit because they maybe haven't let the other person know like what their decision is, but they haven't made a decision yet. So then I can intercept them and I can be like, what are your thoughts? Like, please tell me what we can do. If you want to schedule it, or if you have questions, if it seems high. And like people will usually ask, and one, it helps you sell it inherently because you're in front of the customer again. I mean, they're like, oh, this person cares about what I think. So and wants my work. People like that if you look like you want their work. So um like you can, so we'll do that, and we'll use that as an opportunity. And then also, if they'll bring up questions, like people, a big one is why is roof cleaning so expensive? And it's so the thing is that I tell people, so it's not just cleaning your roof. I mean, it is, we're cleaning your roof, but there's like a ton of different things that go into it. So we've got to prepare everything. Excuse me. We've got to obviously apply the chemicals. We've got to mix the chemicals. We've got to buy the chemicals. So it's not just like water we're spraying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cost associated. We've got to, all of the people that are doing it are trained in how to do it. So it's not like just unskilled labor. I mean, it's low skill labor. It's not like technical, like we went to school for it, but these aren't, it's not just someone off at Home Depot doing it. And then so I think I mentioned we do a lot of preparation. Like we'll cover everything in plastic. We tape up the downspouts to catch all the runoff chemical. I mean, there's just a lot of time involved in it. And so when I explain that, and then Spanish tile roofs, you clean the top, the side, the left and right, and then the front face of it. So it's like you're really cleaning a very big surface, or four times what you're looking at. And so um, when I explain that to people, then people usually understand it a little bit better. Um, and um, and sometimes they're okay with it, and sometimes they're not, or the quote that they got is from someone else who has lower overhead and can afford to do it a little bit cheaper, and that's fair. I mean, sometimes we don't get the work, and not every company that gives a lower price is a bad contractor or is uninsured and cheap and all this stuff. I mean, I charged less when I didn't have when I didn't have a shop or all these truck notes or all like employees and payroll and all that. So um, hopefully
Mhm.
that answers the question.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely does. Basically, what we found is we have the similar situation occur to us. Somebody will say that, hey, I got a better price over there. And at that point, we have to present ourselves like, hey, what do you, we're in a business and we're in a position where we can kind of mess with our prices. Our salespeople have different techniques that they have to be able to offer the customer. At the end of the day, we need to make sure we're offering the value. So in their mind, while they're perceiving they get a better deal somewhere else, they may not know the other costs associated with it. So what you're explaining is you're educating the customer on what it is that they're buying. So when you educate them that Spanish tile is four times as much work as what you look at, then at that point they will logically see the reasoning behind it. You know, like you're actually doing four times as much washing, not just one time. So at that point, you're educating them that this is how you do it. This is why we charge this much, and you could even go the extra mile and be like, hey, I've researched some of our competitors, and we're actually a good price compared to them. So that's kind of what we do too. Is we also gauge what customers are expecting to pay, and show them our price, and be like, look, we're actually below market price, so you're still getting more value from us anyway. So it's all about like how we communicate that value.
For sure. Can I add one more thing before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A couple things. So one or two things real quick. So what I do, so whenever we give them a number, I'll like leave a door open. So I say the same thing every time. So I say, please let me know if you would like to schedule, and I try and make it as easy for them to schedule as possible. So whenever we send a number, they're also getting like dates to schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they can just pick and say this looks good. So I'll be like, please let me know if you would like to schedule, or if there's anything else that I can personally do to make you feel more confident that we're the right company for you. So that like basically, and then I'm like, sincerely, Matt. So that the goal of me writing that is to open a door for them so that I get that what you're talking about. If there's any like hesitation, then they come back to me. And because some people like us, and but they might not, they might be like, oh, these people aren't gonna, they're gonna say no, yada yada. So it kind of is like, wait, give me a second chance, if like schedule it or come back, like let's talk. And then the second thing I'll say is that like people, there's a saying like people eat with your eyes first, right? So if you if you see a meal and it's on like a paper plate, I mean, obviously there's like home cooked meals taste really good, but if you eat somewhere and there's flies, or like the plate's chipped or cracked at a restaurant and it doesn't look great, you're not, it could be delicious like wagyu beef, but it's gonna look perceivedly bad, is how it's gonna taste. But so what we try and do is basically like whenever, before we give any number, we try and like give the best presentation possible. So from the second that they call, from when they see us on marketing, we try and make it look aesthetically amazing and very well put together. To when they call us and we answer, we try and be like extremely professional and responsive, but not like a robot or corporate type of deal, but like very like professional. And then whenever we send the quote, it's put together very nicely, explained, the work is explained thoroughly. They know exactly what they're getting. It's like each line item has like a paragraph of work involved in it, and then a little 3-digit number. So um, they get that, and then we include our insurance terms and conditions. We have a cover letter. Like we try and do as much as we can to like give them um, like the best, to where they see us and they're like, oh my gosh, these guys are awesome. So that kind of like opens the door. If the price is a little higher than what they're expecting, it kind of opens the door, and it's like, well, yeah, that's why. If you walk into a hotel and there's like gold columns, and you ask the front desk what the rate is, it's probably gonna be higher than if the Motel 6, when it's like drywall's cracked, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So that's really good points there. You know that pricing is really important, of course, and the value is really important. So there's another thing that you were kind of touching on earlier. You said something about having payroll and those kind of overheads. Can you explain a little bit about if you have like top employees, or if you have employees in general, what your experience is like been? 3 years ago, you were just yourself, and now if you're managing employees, what's the experience been like?
um it's crazy. So it's um it's probably like one of the hardest things, I think. So for me, for a lot of reasons, um I'll try and be concise with my answer, but I think generally speaking, like the two hardest things are getting in business and like setting people up so that they can do the work for you. Um, but I mean, there's so much to it. I think like the more I can learn on it, I'm constantly learning. Like I'm a people pleaser, so sometimes it's hard for me. But like as far as finding people, I've found like referrals do pretty good. Like usually people are less likely to let you down if there's a relation, like you have mutual friends. Because there's kind of like some social pressure. Another way of hiring people we've used is like just posting on Facebook or sharing it, posting on Indeed, ZipRecruiter. You get and Craigslist. You get like a vast influx of candidates that way, which is good. And then setting up um, setting up like almost like tiers before hiring, like hire slow, fire fast, like
Mm-hmm.
um, hiring up different tiers, setting up different tiers, like a phone interview, and then another phone interview, or sent an email like correspondence, and then setting up a phone interview, and then asking for something random, like for them to fill out a W2. Um, like uh or scheduling an in-person meeting somewhere. So like random stuff like that, so that you can kind of find out like what kind of person it is before you hire them officially, and then possibly have to let them go right away, and then pay unemployment taxes on it later. So those are some things, and a couple other tips like um, working on the better I am at myself, the better my employees will be. So in every sense of the way. So if I'm very professional with them and respectful, then they'll be very professional and respectful with me. I can't. I went through a phase of calling everyone bro and dude, and that doesn't work, because I mean it just doesn't work. So it may work for like a week or a month or even 6 months, but it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I had to learn that like I'm very respectful and professional with them, but also very respectful and professional of myself, to where I won't accept work that's not, or basically I need to set my expectations and make it very clear what I want and what I'm expecting. And then if it's not met, then correct it or like base bring it up immediately. Cause that's another thing. Like if I can't let something happen 4 or 5 times and then on the sixth time get upset about it or like um I mean, there's just so many things I could say, like correct things right away, be professional, make your expectations clear, and then you can't control anyone. People can't read your mind. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of stuff, and then never let someone be indispensable. So, like, don't put too many eggs in one basket. Um, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot, but it's like an ever. Some people are just naturally really good at it, I think. But what I try and do is look at other professional settings that are more advanced than me, and see like um, how those are set up, and so how people interact in those settings, and that um, makes it helpful for or that gives me some clarity on like okay this is what I should do, this is how I should act and all of that. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, for
It's
sure. I think managing employees is some of the hardest, is one of the hardest things that we've done. We also believe in hire slowly, fire quickly. We want to make sure we spend a lot of time screening the individual because it's a lot harder to let somebody go once you got them than to not hire the wrong person in the first place. There's various people who are good at what we're looking for, but then there's other people who would probably be better off in an established business. We're not an established business by any means. We're changing a lot every single day. So the people we bring on board have to be okay with the fact that their job description is going to constantly change. The people that won't really fit in here is those who think, oh, they're asking me to do something else. They need to pay me more, because it's kind of not. That's not how it works. It's performance first and then the raise, which we gladly give because we're a completely performance-based company. So when it comes to scalability, we know that, and I've heard a lot of people say this, that they don't trust anybody else to handle important things with their business. And in my opinion and experience, and from talking to other entrepreneurs as well, being able to trust somebody else to do important things allows the individual to allows the entrepreneur to scale their business by focusing their efforts into something else because the key parts of the business is being taken care of. So finding people to do that and finding people you can trust for that, man, it's really hard. But once you are able to like screen those people and get the right people on board, like multiple phone interviews must help to get the right people. So that's the good thing.
for sure. To touch on what you talked about, I think that's like the biggest thing. I mean, like you just dropped a bomb on everyone. Like, so, I mean, like, it's so funny. Everyone wants to go into business for themselves and then they want to not let anyone do anything. It's like, dude, it's capitalism. I mean, like my take is like, so it's just so funny. I have cars that I mean, I hadn't driven in like months, and everyone else has driven them. Like they're all my livelihood goes out every single day on the road with someone that I'm not watching. Like, I mean, it's like you gotta trust that you got like to a certain extent. Like, yeah, you've got to be calculated and like I mean, like, should like safe and pragmatic and stuff, but like, you got to kind of say throw caution to the wind and let it go because otherwise it's not going to happen. I mean, so and the thing is too, I like to think that I'm the best at everything, but like people are very creative. People are very other people think of two minds is better than one. So if someone looks at the same Rubik's cube that I look at, maybe they think of a more efficient way to do it. And if you're and other times they've worked at other pressure washing companies, so they have other methods they've learned that are more efficient. So it's like, I mean, it's really silly to. It's a big opportunity that is missed out on a lot from a lot of people that you just gotta say screw it and like be willing to let stuff happen. And that's what insurance is for. I mean, we've had people get in car accidents. We've had equipment break. We've had, I mean, it sucks, but it's like if you play a big game, then get then like you take big risks. But if you play a small game, you get small risk, but you get small reward too. And then one other thing is like people are better at doing stuff than I am. Like I'm pretty disorganized. I'm easily distracted. like um, I mean, there's a lot of people that are better at doing stuff than me. Um, I mean, I could talk about it for a long time, but I know we got other stuff. But another thing, just a little side note, it's very important for me to be clear on like what my role is. So right now, my role is just to sell. So like sell and send quotes. So if there's work that needs to be done, it may seem lazy, but it's really not me being lazy. But I will not do the work. I mean, unless it's like worst case scenario, like this week I actually had to work, so I went out at night and like cleaned these windows for this retail place because I needed the guy to be here, or the worker needed to be ready to go in the morning, so I couldn't have anyone do it at night. um so I had to do it, but like I will not work because it's gonna take the company back if I'm on a pressure washing wand, if that makes sense. So
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're basically running the company. You need to focus your efforts on running that company, not necessarily because that's what we hire people for, right? Like we hire people to take care of very specific job duties, and that is their job description. So they are employed to do that, so that you, as the business owner, can focus your energy and attention on actually growing the business. If you have that $1 million a year revenue goal for yourself, you have to be focusing on scalable uh, tasks and duties. So while you're doing that, you have your crew taking care of the day-to-day stuff, which is exactly how the structure is supposed to be. So that's awesome. And speaking of that, you have a goal for yourself. You had a goal for yourself last year too. Obviously, COVID must have impacted your business, a lot of other businesses too. So between COVID and maybe a couple times in the last few years, have you experienced some difficult decisions that you've had to make in business?
um yeah, I think it's funny because everything's kind of a blur,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, there are a couple that stand out, but I mean, everything works out in the end. I mean, I think 90% of us, 99% of us, like if we have our health and everything like that, there's no big deals. So everything can kind of be reverbed back to the or corrected. I think the most difficult decisions were probably like hiring and firing. That's tough. But the kind of thing I fall back on is like I've got to be the best. I'm just trying to be the best business person that I can be. So if it fiscally makes more sense to have to let someone go, then that's what I got to do. So, I mean, I used to like have to clean maggots off of the dumpster pads we would pressure wash.
Mm-hmm.
That sucked. And so now sometimes I have to do other things that aren't that, but they suck just as much. And it's like maybe bear bad news or let someone down or feel like I'm letting someone down or be very uncomfortable because I'm like, scared that this person is not going to like me ever again or hate me. So, but it's if it's for the company, like if it's the best for the company, then it's the best decision to make. So,
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of difficult decisions that anybody has to make in business. Myself, I can't really think of this particular moment in specific, but there's been a few times over the past few years, hiring and firing is definitely up there on the difficult decisions. Other difficult times for us include like during COVID, the supply chain for buying materials got harshly interrupted because shipping was like all over across the nation. Shipping was at a standstill, and FedEx, UPS were backed up, and getting supplies to make the orders that people had paid for was getting very difficult. So because of that, our turnaround was growing higher and higher and higher and higher, and the customers just got madder and madder and madder and madder because they paid their money for a product that they needed. Despite like what's going on in the supply chain, people just want what they want, and they want what they paid for. So I can't blame them, because I'd be the same way. I would want my stuff when I paid for it in the time frame that I wanted. So like having to deal with negative reviews coming in left and right. We're talking Facebook and Google and Yelp and all these places. We had so many negative reviews, and also Facebook has this advertising algorithm where if you have certain amount of negative experiences, they put you at risk for being disabled from advertising on Facebook altogether. So we were about to hit that level, but luckily we were able to get out of that. So that was definitely a difficult time for us.
That sucks. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm like, it was tough, but it could have been a lot worse I mean, a lot of people went through, and a lot of people had it worse than you, but that sucks. I mean, it's tough. That's difficult. Yeah.
It's experiences like those that you just mentioned. It all gets better if you focus your attention on solving the problem. That's essentially any problem that I have in this business, or any problem that you have. Focusing attention on trying to solve that problem will fix it over the grand scheme of things. Because you'll look back on it and be like, yes, this was really tough to deal with, but I developed a system to be able to never have to experience that again. Which means that yes, those customers were upset, but now that customers will never be upset for that reason ever again, because we've developed a system to permanently solve that, or at least mostly solve it. You know.
Definitely. It's funny. Yeah. I mean, exactly what you said. Two things. One, like I think Mattress Mac said this too. He's like, you don't lose, you just learn. So like everything that I mean, obviously, hopefully, yeah, maybe we make the same mistakes twice, but like, everything I learned a bunch during COVID. Like we didn't make that much more money, but like I learned a lot about like not having dead overhead, like not like how valuable a dollar is, like that everyone working needs to be producing, like I mean that we can't just, I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, you're right. So every problem is, there's a lesson in it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Mattress Mac is a legend in Houston, man. He really knows his stuff. He scaled his business very far, very quickly, and I commend him. And man, he's an inspiration. So, aside from Mattress Mac, do you have any other mentors like YouTube on YouTube or podcast, or anybody else you follow?
um it's funny. So yes and no. So in the like I've gone through phases of listening to podcasts and YouTube and stuff, um, and having different mentors in different fields. Um, it's funny, when I first started, I was like all about them a lot, but then I've kind of like, I think the message is kind of the same. Like, show up, do your job, and that's kind of it. Like
Yeah.
as much as possible. But like not to take away from the value, because there's obviously like millions of different facets to it, and it's like you can always do better and this and that. But and like, you don't know what you don't know, so I'm not going to learn much by not reaching out for that type of stuff. But I have a few specific mentors that I call on when I have particular um, particular things come up, um, and they're probably the most valuable resource I have. I mean, my mom is a huge one, which may sound silly, but she's been in business for herself for like 35 years, and
Okay.
she's like, she's an accountant, so she's good. She looks at people's numbers all day. So like she's actually like a very qualified mentor in that sense. And she'll give me as much time as I need to talk to her. So it's like a freebie cheat code, but that's helpful. And then my friend Frank, he like didn't go to college, didn't do anything like that, but he's owned like mortgage brokerages. He has owned like a bunch of different companies. I mean, bought and sold real estate, like had very high levels of net worth throughout his life, and he's someone that I really respect and have gotten a lot of value from. My uncle Patrick, he he's also self-employed, and so I mean there's a small circle of people that I'll call on, and then I'll try and wrap up my answer so we can go to something else. Um, but as far as mentors go, what I try and do is find someone who's at the level that I want to be at. Like they've got to be at above me, right? Like I had a guy who I owe the world to, Mitchell. He's amazing. I mean, I'm not trying to dog him at all, but like I called him every single day for like the first year and a half I was in business. Like literally probably 3 or 4 times a day. And he lives in Dallas. I got him his number cold calling him and being like, "Hey man, I'm in Houston. I'm trying to start a pressure washing company. I'm looking for advice and stuff. Like, could you help?" And he was like so cool. But so I mean, and he's awesome. We still talk a little bit, but like, which kind of sounds bad on me, but like I hit with his help because he was so helpful. I was able to like get to a level of earning in business that was higher than him. And so it kind of became almost like obsolete to talk to him. Like we talk as friends, but about business, we don't really talk that much anymore. Um, but I always like have the most respect for him though. But so like that's what I'm trying to get at is that like what I do is look for people who are at a level that's higher than me, and are qualified in said field. So like if we do trash hauling too, and so I've got a couple guys that I'll call that are like way ahead of me in trash, and those guys, I mean, it's just like it's so great. I mean, it's funny to me that not everyone is like so big on mentors because like people want to help. Like it feel like I'm loving doing this because I feel like a boss or a badass, right? I'm like telling you my stuff. Like people like to share on their accomplishments and like and especially when someone wants to listen. So if you call someone and you're like, "Hey, can I'm trying to do this, can you I have some questions, like do you mind talking about it with me?" Like they'll be, most of the times I find that they're generally like pretty accepting to it, as long as like you respect their time and don't waste it and add a little bit of like charm, not money. Like I've had to pay people to talk with them, but I, like a little bit of like charisma or like sweet talking, like kind of play into it. Like, dude, I love what you're doing. Like, I think it's awesome. Can I talk with you for a little bit? And some people are straight out. I had this one dude, Mike. He's like he did $17 million in pressure washing in California, and I was
Wow.
like, yeah, and I was like, um, and a year like he had like 30 employees or something, and I was like, Mike, like I was like, "Hey man, I think you're awesome, like I see everything you're doing. Can can we get on the phone sometime and talk?" And like I was like, "I'd be happy to buy you dinner for you and your wife, or like a night out or something to make it worth your time." And he calls me back, we get on the phone and he's like, "Yeah man, like it's just not really," he's like, "I could help you, but like it's really not worth my time." Like I
Yeah.
don't mean to be rude, but he's like,
Mhm.
"There's a lot of other like I'd rather just not, like what, there's nothing I can get from help." Like he doesn't serve, he's like, "I got a kid, like I got a son." So I
Mhm.
don't, and so it's kind of funny, but he sold his company and now he's retired, and so he has all this time in the world, and so he knows, like, so now it's like an open door kind of. So
Mhm.
that's just kind of a cool little tidbit. But yeah, that's my take on mentors. They're the most important thing, and one of the most important things for sure. And finding someone that's qualified, and don't ask, don't get, is what my dad would tell me. Like So I mean, it's like asking a girl for her number or something. Like, you don't know, like, just ask. Whether they say no, like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna fault you, like, for, oh, this guy's weird. He wants to learn more about business. It's better than looking stupid if you mess up because you didn't try
Mm-hmm.
and find out the answer, you know? So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think having the right people in your network, it's awesome. You had amazing supportive people in your network. And yeah, the guy who was making 17 million a year has got way too much go on his plate, so that it doesn't strike me as odd or something. It is kind of funny, but it's totally respectable. Like his time is so valuable. He's working on maintaining a $17 million company. So when it comes to like mentorship, I think it's so fundamentally important to have somebody guide you, even if it's not 100% giving you the answers. It's helping guide you in the right direction. I bet that has been invaluable. Like my dad, myself, he taught me some key pieces of information, even though I haven't like got on the phone and been like, hey, I need help with this X, Y, and Z. It's stuff that he raised me with, like a couple different things right off the top of my head. I can say he said an executive does what needs to be done, not what he wants to do, and that stayed with me. To this day, it stays with me. Like you just got to do what you got to do to get the job done and take care of the business. Another thing, he said anything that can be measured can be improved. So make everything that's done in the business down to like a number, bring it down to a metric, and if you have it measured, you can actually gauge it and then improve it. Whether it's in your case, whether it's like tracking the miles that they take to get to the job, or calculating the cost per job by the square foot, including the chemicals, the labor, and all that stuff, getting that cost down to the square foot. Or in our case, it's like seeing how much time it takes one press operator to finish a job, and calculating how many signs that was, and then calculating the cost that it takes per sign. Being able to gauge that information really helps with making good decisions in the long run. So you have the numbers to back up your decision, and like that kind of stuff. I'm so grateful, eternally grateful to my dad. To this day, he still gives me some advice here and there, like small nuggets of information, and that would just stay with me for such a long time. Another one is Kwan. He's the owner of this company, and he basically brought me in many years ago saying, hey, I need help running this company. And he basically gave me the growth opportunity and all that. But he serves as my mentor. Like every single day, we have meetings, and he would explain things about the business or explain things about his experience and share those type of things. And it's really helpful to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. And addition to that, like having somebody who's been in a similar situation, in like for instance, there's the pressure washing Facebook group, right? You're in it, I'm in it, and there's a lot of people sharing information all the time, very valuable information. So just being in a community like that can really help, because people are always posting questions, or people are always posting advice, and there's little tidbits you can learn from those different people who own their own pressure washing business.
Hmm. Yeah, that was awesome what you said about anything that can be measured can be improved, and then an executive does what needs to be done, not what he wants to do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
So aside from that, that's pretty much it. I think we've covered pretty much everything that I have on here. Is there anything you want to touch on, or any like tidbits of information that you would have for anybody who's starting a business?
Um, just work hard. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just so. I mean, everything you do is rewarded. I mean, I think he might be familiar with like God's Memo. From this. There's this book by Mandino, and it's like it talks about this guy's talking to God, I think, or God's writing a letter to him, and it's like, um, everything you do will be paid. Every at like ounce of labor you put in or every action you take, I'll pay you for it. So, um, like if you're at a job and you're making $15 an hour or whatever, and you're like, do everything you do, you're going to get paid for. So do as much work as you possibly can, and you'll get paid for it, like by the universe. And if you're not paid right away, it says that like interest is added, and so that when you get paid, it'll be even more. So, excuse me. I mean, like that's my thought is like go hard if you're young. Like, I mean, even if you like be sensible, but like you just got to work super hard, and like nothing's we all see the ads on YouTube of people like clearing 30 grand from their iPhone a month, and they just started drop shipping last week. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I maybe it happens for some people, but like, I mean, you can totally do 30 grand a month at 20 years old or whatever. Like, I'm not saying the money is not the thing, but like, there's no such thing as nothing in exchange for something. So like, if you, the two ways to get rich is you inherit it or you claw your way into it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I wasn't born into it, so we got one other option. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, that's it. Just work super hard, and like everything will be paid for and taken care of. And then I guess, yeah, I mean, that's it. Just when it sucks, just it's gonna suck. But honestly, if you're super passionate about it and like you're obsessed with it, then you don't even realize that it sucks. Like, because I mean, you're just like so focused on what you're doing. So, and then, oh, last thing, enjoy the process for sure. Like, make the process enjoyable, because like, if we all we do is work and not like, um I mean, sometimes work just sucks, like the executive thing. Like, sometimes you just got to do what isn't fun. But um like, there's a story of this guy that, um he like, it's this kid, he like, his dad dies in battle, and then he works his entire life to become the most elite soldier, and works out for 20 years to for this one battle, and then goes into the battle to avenge his father's death, and he gets shot with an arrow and dies. And so it's like, he died, like he didn't get to reach the goal. So if we don't get to reach the goal of the Ferrari in 18 million square foot house, um like, make sure that we enjoy the process along the way. So, because that's what 98% of it's made of anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Absolutely,
But thank
man.
you so much. Thank you for having me do this. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
For sure. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you got a business to run, you got employees to manage and sales to make. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to be able to make it today. I definitely think that you gave a lot of valuable nuggets of information for all types of entrepreneurs, not just pressure washing. You touched on a lot of good points. So especially the last thing you said. Absolutely, you have to enjoy what you do in order to continue spending every hour of your waking day devoted to building a business, because if you don't enjoy it, you're just going to run yourself into the ground. But being able to enjoy the process, whether it sucks or whether it's amazing, enjoying the process and taking it for what it is and continuing on with it is so important part of the journey. And the end result is the end result, but the journey is so much more important. So I think that's what you were getting at with that. But
Definitely.
aside from that, that's it from me. My name is Karthik, and I'm from Music Marketing, and we got Sunny with Sunny Pressure Wash Help. I call you Sunny, but it's Matt. I know you as Sunny. So,
Yeah.
so
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karthik. It's been a real pleasure.
sure,
Thank you.
man. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you later. Take care.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.